Yeah, I did too.
It was really good.
Yeah, I had never even heard of it or anything, so I didn't really know what to expect.
Me neither. And at first when I started watching, I'm like, ugh, this is going to be so sad. But it was so good. It wasn't as sad as I was expecting.
Like at first I was like, oh great, it's gonna be boring. It's gonna be like,
A documentary.
yeah, and I was like, my wife's like, oh, we can watch it at night, 'cause I asked her to, and she's like, okay, cool. And so we watched it. I was like, I have no idea what it's gonna be like, so
That's
yeah,
awesome.
I know, but it was good though. All right, awesome. So we just have to answer the question or just like talk about it, right?
Yeah, and I have written down all my answers that I kind of just bullet pointed through the movie, so we can just go through them and
Okay, cool.
see if we have things that each other don't have or whatever.
Okay, give me 1 sec. I'm gonna go grab my kid.
You're fine.
What is this? Like a big thing. Try playing with it. Alright, sorry about that.
No worries.
Alright, so yeah, we just do that. And then do we have, I see there's like the review that we have to give each other.
Yeah, so we'll do a peer evaluation to just say how prepared we both were, and then we have to submit the answers we come up with on
Okay,
our
and
own.
that's just like where we write our own paper kind of thing, right?
Yeah, and she said it only has to be bullet points, so you don't have to write
Yeah.
out.
Okay, cool. And then we have to, and then that review, I like copy and pasted the information onto like a Word doc, and then we just give you, like, I just give you a 25 points, right?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know if it's I don't know if it's gonna be like a quiz where you just click the buttons, or if it's gonna be give your score of your partner.
Yeah, because I clicked on it, and it was just kind of confusing, because I was like, where's the review, or like, where's the critique thing for it? But if you look on like the notes section, if you scroll down, it says like, oh, here's the rubric for it, and you just need to like copy and paste it, she said, or something. So.
Let me see.
Hey, be careful, bud.
Oh, so yeah, we probably do just copy and paste it.
Yeah, and it says like peer's name. I put your name, and it says
Okay.
peer reviewer's name, and that's my name.
Yeah.
And then I just like have the criteria there, and I just give you a score at the bottom. So blank out of 25, and then I guess I submit, like save it, and then submit it. I'm assuming.
Yeah.
So. All right, awesome. Okay, so let me pull up the questions. I thought I had them. Wait, I have them right here. Okay. So questions. The first one. What did Wilbur's heart drove? What doctrine in Wilbur's heart drove him to advocate? Why is the doctrine of the family so important to have in your heart and to be passionate about it, and persistent?
I said one of the motivators to him was the song Amazing Grace, that was written by his preacher who used to drive the slave trade.
Yeah.
And because that seemed like it was his favorite song, and he seemed to reference it a lot.
Uh-huh.
And then I also think like him finding God is kind of how he put it, was also another fire in his heart, so to say, and that it kept him going to get equality.
Hold on 1 second.
You're fine.
Sorry, he's just crazy today.
No worries.
Yeah, sorry, he's crazy today.
No worries.
But yeah, I totally agree. I think that song was like one of the defining, like one of the factors, and I feel like him, like his religious background, like you said, having that faith and knowing that everyone's created equal, like that's what really pushed him. Was he had the faith and he knew, he grew up knowing it and going to church, and so I feel like that's the main reason why he did it.
Yeah.
So
And I think also the thing that drove him over the edge was when he was playing cards and the guys didn't have
yeah,
enough money, and so he's like, bring in my nigger and that will be my payment. And I think that's because after that, like, he stopped playing cards. Like, that was kind of where I think that's what kind of drove him over the edge, is when he realized how much they were treated like property.
yeah, and like I thought the same thing. It was like because at first I was really confused about when it switched back and forth in time, and
Yeah.
I was like, wait, where am I right now? And so it just confused me. But then when I thought about it, like it was with that whole scene with the cards, it was just kind of powerful, and it was just like he could have gone two ways. He could have played the hand and then maybe won and like freed the guy, or he could have just like he did walk away because he knew it wasn't right. Because even if he had tried to play the game, it would have been playing for someone's life, and that's not what he wanted to do. And
Yeah.
so you're right. I think it was like a really like that's what pushed him over the edge. So and like the second part of that says, why is the doctrine of the family so important to have in your heart, to be passionate and persistent? What do you think?
Um, One thing that, and this kind of goes back to what we were talking about in our earlier discussion, is if you have it in your heart, you know what to look for. And even though having it in your heart won't get you many places today, like you can't say the scriptures say, but it will help you find research that validates what's in your heart. And so having it in your heart gives you the fire to do what's right. Like, it helps you, it drives you, like his religious background did, to look for solutions, to do what's right.
Yeah, no, I think it's totally true. If you don't have it in your heart, then you're not going to be passionate about it. You're not going to care that the black people are slaves. You're not going to care about it because it's not who you are. It's not what makes you who you are. And so I feel like you have to have the doctrine of what a family is in your heart, or else it's going to be knocked around and it's going to be changed and it's going to be something different than what you really believe. So
Well, and if you don't have it in your heart, you're more likely to fall for the worldly traps, like
yeah,
what women know. Like, you would, if you didn't have doctrine in your heart, you would fall for that. You would say, yeah, I believe that, that's true, because it was worded very well.
yeah, definitely. I think that's yeah. If you don't have it in your heart, you definitely can be persuaded.
Yeah.
So, let me see. Okay, so the next one says, how did Wilbur employ a theoretical approach to become a more effective advocate? Identify at least one thing in each system and be specific. So I honestly haven't done this yet. Like I haven't looked and seen the different stages yet or different
Okay.
ones
I
yet. But,
put a few down, and then we can just kind of discuss them. The first one is the microsystem. So that's the spheres which you are directly in. So like your peers, your family, church, school, stuff like that. And so I said with his peers, his first move he made against slavery and slave trade was he stood up to his parliament peers, and he invited peers over to dinner. And so he started with his peers and he got them on his side, and then he moved outward. With church, his old preacher, he finally convinced him to write his story, and so he used that to help get his point across. And then media, other slaves, like the one person, that the slave that used to be a prince in his hometown, I can't pronounce
yeah,
his name.
yeah, I
He wrote
couldn't.
his story. He wrote his story, and so that was they used the media, like through written word and stuff, to help. Did you see any others with microsystem?
Yeah, I'm looking right now. I feel I'm just trying to think. Yeah, like you pretty much hit it dead on when he went to his priest and talked to him, and then I like how he went back again to like check and see how he was doing and like get his writings and advocate for him. Um, and then yeah, with his like at the end when he was like how he was telling the story to his then fiance or friend or whatever, later wife, is like he was telling her and showing her like, well, that's the mic. Yeah, that's the micro her fan. He was showing her and telling her like we have to be passionate about it, even though he didn't want to talk about it at first. She's like, no, we need to. You should talk about it. Like I feel like that was another one too. So
Yeah, good one.
thanks. And then so it's the ecosystem, right? So like school, community, the media you
Um,
said.
yeah, exosystem is like school boards, parent work, social services, um, federal
Uh,
commissions, community boards. So parts that you're not directly in but that affect you.
so I
And
think that
so,
one when he was on the boat, remember how he had his friend take all those like other people on the boat, and then he said like this is the boat
this,
that people were slaves on, you know?
yeah,
Were they people of the parliament or no?
I think so.
Okay, because I didn't know if they were just like people that were against him or if they were actually parliament people because there was like the women on there. So I was like, I wonder if that was like just their wives or this confused me for a sec.
I think they are either parliament or just well off, like influential people.
Okay, that's what I thought they were. Were just like the high end people that had slaves and stuff.
Yeah.
So that's what I thought
Um,
about when the eco was just kind of like he's not related to him or like has any influence with them, but he was inputting himself into them.
yeah.
So,
One that I put staying within like Parliament is he, and this part made me laugh. He sent thank you notes to those who voted for his bill every time his bill went. He
yeah,
sent thank you notes, and I just thought that was kind of funny. But that was with Parliament, like he was trying to influence Parliament and say, "We appreciate your vote. You know, this is you're doing the right thing." Um, and then I also thought another one was when they decided to cheat
yeah, that was
and
good.
go a different way because that didn't directly influence them, like it didn't get them what they wanted, but it cut the slave trade by 80% because of that. And
Yeah,
so
I thought it was really cool when they did that.
I know that was so awesome.
I liked how like during that part when the guy like was catching on that they were cheating, and he like went to go
Yes.
tell everyone, and the guy's like, oh yeah, they went to like the state fair or like the circus or something like that. That was really
And it
funny.
was Wilbur that gave them all a ticket.
Yeah, it was funny.
But it made me kind of wonder if that guy hadn't had come in, would they ever had realized?
Yeah,
Because it was when he walked in that he's like, something is going on.
yeah. I think he should have shown up. I think
Yeah, I
I
agree.
Wilbur was like, dude, what are you doing here? Like with his eyes, like get
No!
out. Yeah,
Yep.
I thought the same thing.
Okay, the next one is mesosystem.
Okay.
And so that is a connection between microsystems. And so for that one, I did family and peers. So he regularly had um, family and peers over to his house. Like he invited them to dinner, and um, so that was mixing the two mesosystems of family and peers, and it
Yeah.
just helped spread his influence because he invited different people over to his house, and at their marriage, when he got married, that's when they decided to run the bill again, and so he had all those people that were happy for him, and so they were kind of with him, and the war was over, and so
Yeah. And like his friend, how his friend, because mixing the two, I just thought how his friend was like the prime minister, and so he
yeah,
like had his friend had to stay unbiased like during the whole thing, but he was on his side the whole time. You know, like his friend, the prime minister, was like, "You have to do this. You have to stand up for it, but I can't be involved." But yet his friend would try to go and be involved with him and like keep telling him what's going on, and told him about the trick, and told him about these things. That way, he could have him, the prime minister, influence his followers as well, kind of thing.
Yeah, and he even said, like, there was one time he's like, as your prime minister, be cautious,
Yeah,
but as your friend, to heck with caution.
yeah, I thought that was really cool.
And so I think the prime minister played his part well in that, like, when they came up with their cheating bill, he
Hmm.
had the boring guy read it. Like, he was the one that said, I need you to pass this for me,
Yeah,
and so he was on his side the whole time, but he had to do it in such a way that he was safe too.
yeah, exactly. I thought that was really cool. And I thought that was like, because that the prime minister was part of his micro system, like it was his friend, but yet he was the big political guy that you can't influence because he is the prime minister.
Yeah,
So slippery slope right there with those two. So
I know.
it could have gone horribly wrong for both of them. So okay, so the next question, or is there? That's the only three, right?
The next one, there's two more. The macro system,
Oh yeah.
which is like religion, economics, political ideology, science and technology, culture and ethnicity. And so at that one, I just went with political ideology and said that they were able to change political ideology through all that they did, through sharing experiences, through gathering evidence and personal stories, that in the end they were able to change the political ideology that slave trade is bad. And even when the one guy from the other side, because they were divided in parliament, so even when
Mhm.
that other guy signed the paper and moved to the other side, like they were changing some political ideology and getting more people on their side.
Yeah, that's very good. Yeah, I think that's really good. Um, yeah, I have to disagree with you on that one.
And then the last one is just chrono system, and I think like the only thing you can really put on there is because that's all about change, and so
Yeah,
in
that
the
changes
end they were
that.
able to change society about how they viewed slaves and slave trade and stuff like that.
Yeah, did you see the like what was the time from when it first started to when it was actually finished? Did you see that? I was trying to figure it out.
I think it started in 1813, and I think it ended in like 1830s or something.
I couldn't remember. 'Cause I know he died in 33, and so I was like, I don't know how. Like I was trying to figure out like
Yeah, I don't
from
remember.
the first year that it showed to the last. I couldn't remember.
I know that when he first introduced the bill, there was a year and a half wait, and then he
Yeah.
introduced it again, and then I think he introduced it 3 times, and then he went to live with like his uncle or something and
Yeah.
got married, so that was probably another year, and then they did it again. So I would say at least 5 years.
Yeah, because I think because when he was talking, well, when he was talking to his wife or his girlfriend at the time, like wasn't he saying like I went 5 times?
Yeah,
Was that a different time? I can't remember. So I
I
thought,
think
yeah, was it like between 5 and 10 years of like waiting and figuring it out, and
it was a long time.
it's crazy. Definitely persistence on that one.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah. Um, yeah. So I think that's the only thing is he had to be persistent. Like nothing else he could do.
Yes.
Okay. So the next question says, how did Wilbur and his fellow advocates do and share their research? What evidence do you think they provide to persuade those opposing on the fence, on or opposing or on the fence? I think that was really cool when they brought that scroll of all the names. That was like so cool. And he's like, yeah, there's 300,000 names or whatever it was, like,
Yeah.
in all the stories. And I feel like them going out to these different countries and different cities and getting all the stories is exactly what people needed to
Yeah.
change, to be able to see, okay, people don't want this. People are not liking it. And so I think that was a really good thing they did.
And they did a lot of demonstrations. Like they took the chains, they took the box of how much room they have. They showed the brandings. Um, they they kept current on what was happening with slave trade, because there's one time they're like, there's a slave ship with twice as number of slaves as they are insured to have, but how do we prove it? And so they stayed current with what was happening so that they could stay on their game. And
Yeah.
then when they brought in that petition, I think one thing that was really powerful in presenting it was they had that other guy who was an extreme on the other side
Yeah,
sign it
consign it.
in front of everyone. So that was a really great way to present it, because they were showing, you know, ideas are changing. People are starting to see that this is a bad thing. And I think him signing that and going over to the other side really brought some thought into the other people.
Yeah, I thought the same thing. And it was like when they were trying to talk to that guy from Ireland, because he was like, he had the whole Irish vote or whatever, you know, and how he had said he was like against slavery and everything, but he didn't want to cancel it or get rid of it because it would take all the financial out of it.
Yep.
Like I think that's something that the research, like the like that Wilbur should have like. I mean, he understood that it's gonna cut down and all these people are gonna run out of business and everything. But I think the the Scotch guy made a good point in my book. Was like, it's true. If we cut this out, then our economy crashes. Not just like the slavery dies, but all the economy, which is
Yeah.
very true. But then at the same time, it's like the cost and like the benefits from no slavery or like the consequences. You know, you
Yeah.
have to outweigh them. And so I think Wilbur was like, I don't care. Like I just want it done. Where he was like, I want it done, but we also need to make sure we have money.
Yeah. One thing when you were saying that that made me think of was the butler who kept saying quotes. One of them that he said was, "Great changes are easier than small ones." And I really like that, because when you make one big change, like, you only have to adjust to it once. Where if you keep making smaller gradual changes, then you have to adjust to various ones. So if they made the change that you couldn't sell sugar that was made with slave labor, then they'd have to figure out how to work around that and then get adjusted to that. And then they make a change that you can't fly a neutral American flag, then they have to adjust to that. But if they make just one change, it might take 10 months to do that, but it doesn't take 10 years of adjusting the small things.
Yeah, very true. Like Wilbur saw the bigger picture, and this other guy didn't.
Yeah.
So
And I think the other guy was more focused on himself and his well-being, because, like, if there wasn't sugar to sell and people wouldn't buy coffee, like, I think he was very self-focused, where Wilbur was very others-focused, and he's like,
yeah,
so what if some of our rich people don't have money for 2 months? They'll survive.
yeah.
Let's
He's
think
like
about the lives of slaves.
yeah, he's like, we live in these mansions and people live in boxes. Like, why is that? You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I think his team, like him and his advocates, did a really good job about going out and spreading the word. Because back then they didn't have TV, they didn't have radio, they didn't have those things, so they had to go out and advocate for these slaves that couldn't do it.
Well, and think of how hard it would be to get 390,000 names on horseback.
Yeah, seriously. And they all signed that one piece of paper. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And to carry that paper around with you, like, that was heavy.
I know. I was like, dang, that's so many. It's crazy. Um, so how does this film portray the importance of working together as a group? What has family advocacy group taught work? Or what has family advocacy group work taught you? So the first part of the question, like, how does it portray the importance of working together? Just like we said, I feel they all had to be united in what they wanted, or else it wasn't going to get passed, or else it was not going to get the way they wanted it. I mean, if Wilbur was the only one that was passionate about it, it would have died 2 seconds after he was done talking.
Well, and there was, I think in the end, like, the people for it, it was like 200, and the people against it was like 15. So if you think about that, 1 against 215 will get you nowhere. But if you have people on your side, they can help you spread the word, they can help you find evidence. They can help you convince others. And like with the prime minister on his side, the prime minister had power. Like when he had that guy come and said, friends of Wilbur's are friends of mine and enemies of Wilbur's are enemies of mine. And so like having people on your side, especially people that have influence elsewhere, because where I have influence will be different from where you have influence. And so just having a lot of people on your side helps spread your influence and makes the work easier. Like it's not one person doing all the work, it's everyone doing all the work together.
Yeah, definitely true. And I just had this thought, I was like, I bet he had followers that were like, that were on the fence of, I don't know if like slavery's bad, but I don't know if it's good, so I'll just go with Wilbur because he's my friend, because he's the type of guy that I want to advocate for me if I ever get in a crisis or something.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, yeah, like he just was like so passionate, and you know that he was the same way with his friends. Like if he cared about his friends, and he would do whatever he could for them. And I
Yeah.
feel like that's why a lot of people might have followed him because of that reason.
Well, and even his girlfriend, fiance, wife, whatever, she
Yeah.
said that when she first heard about him, she stopped eating sugar that was like at all
Yeah.
in her coffee, and she told her friends that every cube of sugar has blood of slaves in it. And
Yeah.
so, like because of his persuasiveness and because they were going all around, like on his own, he wouldn't have been able to go to all the places that they went together. Because there's people that went back to the West Indies to get personal stories. There's people that went all over England to get signatures, and like he wouldn't have been able to do that, and he got burnt out just from what he did do, let alone if he was doing it alone.
Yeah, definitely. I think yeah, working as that team, it would have never gotten done if they didn't do it.
Yeah.
And so I like this next question a lot. What parallels do you see between Wilbur and Captain Moroni in Alma 46? Oh wait, sorry, we skipped to the second part of question 4. What has family advocacy group work taught you? It's taught me that I need to stand up for what I believe, but also stand with others that have the same beliefs. And like, even if they don't believe in the same religion as me or the same in different areas, but they have the same belief about a family, I need to stand up with them for that.
Yeah,
So,
that's excellent. Kind of like what our church is doing with the Catholic Church. Like they're before we used to be enemies, but now we're coming together to stand in defense of the family. So
yeah,
like one thing that I was thinking of is when working in a group, you have various backgrounds. Like even if we're all marriage and family studies majors, we have had different experiences. We know people who have had different experiences, and so you get a lot more variety.
yeah,
That, and so you learn more. Like if I would have done some of these assignments on my own, just answered the question, they wouldn't have been as encompassing as they were when we got together as a group because we had different experiences and we could add to each other's experiences or build on them. Like when you say something, sometimes it sparks a light in someone else to think of something and something they wouldn't have thought of if you hadn't said what you did.
yeah. That's so true. It's just, yeah, like you said, all these different minds and different personalities and different backgrounds makes it more. I think it makes it stronger because you can
Yeah.
bounce ideas off each other and it can be more, it can be stronger. So.
Yep, most definitely.
Let's see this next question. Okay, so what parallels do you see between Wilbur and Captain Moroni and Elma 46? What is a Christian and professional family advocate, and how did Wilbur exemplify that? How can you be effective and Christ-like each against such loud and often degrading voices? Think about the question. I'll be right back. Sorry.
Okay, you're fine.
Give me like a minute. I'll be back.
Okay.
All right, sorry about that.
No worries.
So yeah, regarding that question, I just saw a lot between the two of them. Because chapter 46, that's with the whole flag, right?
Yeah.
And so I feel like Captain Moroni was, the city and everything was kind of, didn't really care about it and didn't want to fight and were happy with where they were. And it was kind of the same thing with Wilbur. The city was happy where they were. They were excited and they didn't want to fight. They didn't want to argue about it. But when Wilbur stood up and Captain Moroni stood up, people came to him. At first, it wasn't a lot, but sooner or later it happened. More and more people came, and they were able to conquer it. It took Wilbur a little bit more yelling and screaming than Moroni, but, well, maybe it didn't, but from what we have in the Book of Mormon. But
Yeah.
I feel like they were similar, and like they were the only ones that saw what God wanted and what God intended. And so they stood up for it.
Yeah. One thing I really liked, Wilbur said we should start out with the first step. We are talking about the truth. We should paint pictures of it, make songs about it, and then I didn't get the rest. But I just really like that because one of the first things Moroni did was he focused on the truth. He wrote the truth on a flag. He painted a picture of it. And then, so that was the first step. And then he took it to everyone, just as when they took the petition to all the major cities to get it signed, Moroni took the flag to all the major cities and they put it up so that everyone could see it, so that everyone could be reminded of it. And that's kind of the same thing that Wilbur did, is he had stories written out. He sent information out so that it was on people's minds to think about, so they could ponder it in their hearts and think about it.
Yeah, no, it's so true. And then I like how, like, Wilbur's friend, the guy that was a slave, when he wrote that book, it was like 50,000 copies or something like that, and sold in a week or something.
Yeah.
It was like, that's kind of what Moroni was. He had the flag and he gave it to everyone, let everyone know about it. And so I feel like they were both the same.
Yeah,
So
that's
like,
awesome.
I know, and like, so thinking about that, like the next part of the question says, what is a Christian and professional family advocate? And how did Wilbur exemplify that? I think it was kind of like how at first when he was meeting with all the people for the first time, and he's like, "Oh, what are you guys doing here? Like, why are you guys in town?" And they're all like, "Because of you, because we want you to stand up for us," you know. And I feel um, like he didn't know what to do. He didn't know if he wanted to be a politician or the follower of Christ, and he didn't know he could do both together. But they gave him that faith to know, okay, you can. You can be an advocate for us and for slavery, and you could be a politician because of your influence. And I feel like he did it really well. He was able to be true to God and Christ and true to what he believed professionally. So.
Yeah, I agree. Just going along with what you were saying, to me, a Christian and an advocate would be someone that follows the truth. Like, they don't sway from the doctrine that's in their heart. They know what's true. They stand up for it, but they do it in a way that's respectful and loving. They don't degrade others. They don't put others down, but they don't move from where they're standing. They stay firm in their beliefs, but they don't do it at the cost of others.
Yeah, definitely. And so the second part of that, or the last part says, how can you be effective and Christ-like against such loud and often degrading voices. What do you think?
I always think of the general authorities, like just in this past semester they have come out with so many different press releases on the family or on gender or on marriage, and they did it in a way that was respectful. Like one of the, just from the women's conference, and I read this in our other meeting, but it says, while we need to do the best we can to create strong traditional families, membership in the family of God is not contingent upon any kind of status, marital status, parental status, financial status, social status, or even the kind of status we post on social media. And I just really like that because she's saying that traditional family is still the truth. That's still the doctrine we're going to preach. But regardless of your status here on earth, your family situation, we're all children of God. And so she stands firm on the truth, and both of what she said is true. Like, yes, we are children of God. Our status doesn't deter that or change that. But as children of God, we need to strive for the best. And so, like, she just, who could be offended by that? Like, what? I'm sure someone could find something to be offended of, but how she said it, I couldn't find any way to be offended of that. Like, it was just very polite, very respectful, very loving, very accepting. Like, it accepted everyone, no matter your marital status, no matter your parental status. Like, everyone was included in that, but it also said, this is still what we believe.
Yeah. I feel like the best way for us to be able to overcome these loud voices, like of people saying that what marriage is and what marriage isn't, what family is and everything. I think exactly like you said, like we need to be firm in what we believe, but we need to tell them what we believe in a loving way, like she did, because we could easily fight back and say, no, you're wrong, like God does not want this. But if we do, it comes back harder, and we just start fighting, and then that's contention, which is not of God. And so I feel like by being calm and being honest and faithful and prayerful about what to say to people is what's really going to keep us strong and how to overcome those fighting words or whatever.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Definitely. So the next question, it says Marcia Barlow spoke on persuasion speaking in writing. Did Wilbur and others exemplify any of Marcia's ideas? How so?
I think we've kind of already talked about this.
Yeah.
The used-to-be slave, Wilbur's friend, and also the preacher wrote their stories, so that was like the story of me that she talked about.
Yeah.
And then when he took the people to the ship and told
Yep.
them, this is the smell of death, the slow and painful death, this is the story of us, asking them to do something, to remember, and to not forget that this is what death smells like, this is what slaves go through. And so I think they did really well in using all the aspects of it. They talked about the story of me, they talked about how this affects you, which is the story of you, and then talked about what we can do, which is the story of us.
Yeah, I thought you nailed it perfectly. Like, they did everything perfectly to persuade people. Like, they made it very personable. They made everyone aware of what was going on. They didn't sugarcoat it. They were open and honest, like you said. Like, the part with the ship was, like, awesome. And
Yeah.
how he's like, take the handkerchiefs off. Like, do not cover your mouth. Like, man, it was just so cool because, like, you could tell they were hurt by it. Like,
Yeah.
struck them. And so I think they did perfect.
And I like how you said he was very personal. Like in all his things, he was personal. He had dinners. He invited people over. He took them to ships. He told, like, he gave them books, and like it was very personal. And he wanted each person to gain almost like personal testimony, so to say, of this.
Yeah, and I think it was even more than in real life than what the movie portrayed.
Oh yeah.
Like, I bet he had a lot of those books from his slave friend, or the guy that was a slave, that he gave out to people. Like you said, when they're over at dinner, he's like, hey, do you have this book? No? Okay, read it. You have to understand it. And like you said, he was pretty much telling them, get a testimony of it. And I feel like that's exactly the same thing as with the church. We do the same thing with the Book of Mormon. We want people to know it's true, and he wanted people to know that slavery was bad. And so it's the same thing. It's great. What role did the government, policy, and religion freedom play in the fight of the slave trade? And do you see their political system being pro-family? Why or why not? So the first one, what role did the government play, we'll say, in the fight of the slave trade?
Government was the main focus of this because of Parliament, and so at first they were very against it, and they made any movement towards abolishment extremely difficult, if not impossible. And even when he said, like, this is inevitable, they're like, so you're already counting the votes before it's even happened?
Yeah.
And so, like, they were very degrading of it, very against it, because it was their livelihood. They were the wealthy ones. They were the ones that had slaves, and they didn't want to give that up.
Yeah, definitely. And then I think it kind of goes hand in hand with the policy, because the policy is what the government made. The government had made that slave trade is okay.
Yep.
And then it wasn't until that policy changed that, because even though the policy was changing, there were still people in the government that were bugged about it, but they were more willing to listen because that's the policy now.
Yeah.
So I feel like the government played its role, but it also was because of the policy. And then, so with the last one, with the with freedom, or sorry, religious freedom, I feel like when the part where they're at the church and the pastor goes, all right, I just want to talk to you guys about, I can't remember the name now, or the word.
The abolishment of slave trade.
Yeah, like tons of people, everyone got up and left. Like, I feel like even though in the religious setting, he was able to stand up and tell them what God would have done, and people had the choice. Yes, I want to listen, or I don't want to listen.
Yeah.
And so it's like that religious freedom. They had the ability to sit there, the ability to leave. And so he was telling what God wanted, but people didn't want to hear it.
Yeah. Another thing I thought of with religious freedom is at the beginning how Wilbur didn't know that he could be a preacher and a political activist. And so I think there was kind of some, I don't know how to say it, but like there was a breakage kind of between political and religious freedom. Like you're either religious or you're political, but you can't do both. And so I think there was, like, you couldn't speak of religion in political topics, like you're political or your religion. And so when he was at religion, he could be religious, but when he was at political, he could be political. And I think that's a main reason why a lot of people at the church sermon left, because that was church, not politics.
Yeah, church and state, right?
Yep.
Yeah, definitely true. And so it says, like, do you see their political system being pro-family? Why or why not? I say no. Just because of like the era of time, just because women didn't have a say in anything and men did, and I feel like it was all about the building your business and having money, but not necessarily to benefit the family. And so I feel like their political system was only on financially being stable, not caring about what happens in the family or with the family.
That's exactly what I put, because even with like the slaves, they were the main reason they stated that they were against abolishing slave is because it would ruin them economically. And so they weren't concerned about people. They were concerned about being high and mighty and having power and wealth.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That was pretty easy, I think, that question. Yeah. So do you feel that Wilbur used his time on Earth well? I think he did. He spent his whole life, or not this whole life, but the majority of it fighting for slaves. Even when he was sick, deathly sick, he wanted to get out and go propose his bill to everyone. Like, he definitely did what God wanted him to do.
So. Well, and even in the very beginning when he was on his way back to his whatever, and he stopped those guys from beating the horse. He's like, if you'll just give him a few minutes, give him an hour, he'll be fine. But if you keep whooping him, he's not going to get up. But he was super sick. Like that's why he was going back to his family, is because he was sick. But he still did what was right. He made the carriage stop, and he did what was right. So I think he did uses time well on Earth.
Yeah. I forgot about that part with the horse, yeah. Um, okay, so do you think, or how do you see him showing the elements of consecration that Elder Christofferson spoke of?
So I printed the talk so that I could remember what they were. So they were unity, holiness, and caring for the poor. So becoming unified in one heart and mind. And I think he helped the country become unified against slave trade and
Yeah.
become a more holy people, so to say, because they were not practicing slave trade. And then I think a main one was the last part that Elder Christopherson talked about was to care for the poor and the needy, and that was the main thing he did. He cared for those who didn't have a say in the politics. Like on the end of the film, it talked about how he reformed prisons and he reformed education and he like did all these reforming, and children didn't have any say, but he reformed education because he knew they needed it. And slaves didn't have any say, but he abolished slave trade because he knew that that was the right thing. So I think his main focus was caring for others. I mean, like we talked about earlier, he was sick most of the time and he didn't care about himself. He didn't want to take painkillers because he needed a strong mind so that he could go advocate for others.
Yeah, I just think it's exactly what Christ did for us. You know,
Yeah.
like I feel like that's what it's like when we pass on and we go through like the judgment and everything. Like Christ is gonna be pleading with everyone, like forgive them, like they already repented of this. Like you need to stop. And I just feel like Wilbur did the same thing. He was out telling people his whole life to change, and he did exactly that. He did it, and it's exactly what Christopherson was talking about, because he gave his whole body and soul to it.
Yeah.
So, um, any other profound thoughts or personal insight from the movie that are related to child or family advocacy? Um, Not that I can think of right off the bat. We pretty much talked all about it.
I just wrote down various quotes from the movie that I really liked, that
Hmm.
I felt related to advocacy. And one that was just kind of funny was at the very beginning, um, when I don't know if he was his uncle or who he was, but that he stayed with when he was sick.
Hmm.
He said, "Marriage and health are inseparable. Once I married Marianne, my health improved." And that's when they went to set him up with Barbara. And I just thought that was kind of a cute little quirky thing. But even in today's research, they've proved that people who are married are healthier.
Yeah.
And then, let's see. We are too young to realize things are impossible, so we will do them anyway. And I really like that because we're at this stage right now where we're still have high goals and high aspirations, and to us it might seem impossible, but we're too young to realize it's impossible, so we do them anyways. Like to him,
Yeah.
the slave trade to anyone else seemed impossible to abolish that, but to him he didn't realize it was impossible. He thought it was inevitable. Like he thought it was going to happen regardless, and so I just really like that. And I think having that mindset of nothing's impossible will help us, because it might take us 10 years, it might never pass, but it will influence someone. It's kind of like missionaries, that they might not baptize anyone, or they might baptize one person, but that one person does 10,000 family history names, or now all their children are members and their grandchildren are members, and so you never know what your impact or influence is going to be. Like if he hadn't caused that law to come about before he passed away, maybe someone else influenced by him would have.
Very true. So true. Like,
Let me see if there's anything else that. Oh, and at the very end, after the bill was passed, I really liked this. When people think of great men, they think of Napoleon, men of violence. Rarely do they think of peaceful men. And that just made me think of like the scripture that talks about how words are more powerful than the sword, but a lot of people that use their words aren't recognized as heroes. Like he talked about how Napoleon will come home and there'll be like this big parade, and Wilbur will go home and lay his head on his pillow. Like that's
Yeah.
his fanfare.
I
So
thought that was really cool because that's so true. It's like, I don't know, like, but you think about nowadays, like we understand that. I think so because it's like Martin Luther King did not battle or do anything. He was all words and action,
yep.
and he is like a hero to the black people and to like all Americans to know that we need to treat everyone equal. And so I feel like as a culture we kind of understand it a little bit better now, but not the best. But,
Yeah, I agree.
yeah. Is there any other quotes?
Um, I think I'll just do this last one. If you make the world better in one way, it makes the world better in every way. Um, I just thought that was really neat that if you can only change it in one way, in essence, you're changing it in every way because he changed the one thing, he changed slave trade, but that changed their whole livelihood. They no longer had slaves. They had to employ them, and that was no longer, slave trade drivers was no longer an option for a job or whatever, like, so just because he changed one thing, he changed the whole livelihood of people, and their change influenced other countries to follow suit.
Yeah. So true. Small change, but great effects.
Yeah.
Cool. And then number 10 and 11, do we answer that now, or is that just for us?
I think that's just for us.
Okay, yeah, because I'm like, it doesn't pertain to the movie, so.
Yeah, I think that's just for us.
'Cause this is part of the exam, right? The final?
Yeah, so you'll just type up your responses to this, and then you'll turn it in on the Amazing Grace page, and then we
Yeah.
turn in the peer evaluation, and I'll
And
turn
then
in the link on the
on the
Amazing Grace
final,
peer
right?
evaluation.
Yeah. Cool. And so the Amazing Grace peer evaluation, we submit it. We
And
submit
that's
that
for
right
this
here.
meeting. And you submit that on the peer evaluation page under the Amazing Grace folder. And under the Amazing Grace one, you submit your document, your bullet point document.
Okay. Oh, awesome. I'm glad we did this week. It was good that you texted me because I was thinking, I was like, it'd be so nice to get that done now. Might
Now
as
we're
well.
done the class, basically. Once you turn that in, you're done the class.
Yeah, because there's nothing else we have to do, right?
Nope, we're done.
Nice. Glad it's over.
Me too. It's crazy. I graduate in 1 week. It's weird.
Really? I have 2 more classes. Well, 2 more than my internship, and I'm done.
That's awesome. It will go quicker than you think.
Uh,
I remember back 9 semesters when I just started, and
yeah,
I can't
school.
wait till I graduate. And now I'm here. I'm like, oh, I wish I could stay in school.
I don't know if I'm gonna say that though.
It's easier. I know what I'm doing. You just do homework, you take tests,
Yeah.
and now I have to go find a job and be a big girl.
So true. Well, awesome. Well, congrats on graduating this semester. That's awesome.
Thanks. Good luck to you.
Thank you. And
Almost
then,
there.
awesome. Will you submit this link, or how does that work?
I will. Yep.
All right, awesome. All right, well, thank you, and I'm glad we did this week.
Yep, me too. Thanks.
You're welcome. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.